week 2 of college football. It is sad. It is a disgrace of what we produced in week 1. We're going to give you some fresh picks today. Hopefully they're a million times better than last week, but we will have to review last week. Evan, anything to say?
I just want to apologize to everyone out there that listened last week, and if you took my advice, if you took Justin's advice, I am deeply sorry. It was an utter embarrassment. The good news is only up from here, right? Mm-hmm. We got punched in the mouth week 1. You could have faded me completely, parlayed that, hit a lick. I mean, I don't know what to say. And it starts with that Florida and Utah game. That was embarrassing on Florida's behalf. Justin thinks he's Mr. Utah over here,
Check
the Mormon
the
King. I'm just going to tell you this.
Utes.
I'm just going to tell you this right now.
Utes.
Anthony Richardson was able to accomplish something magnificent last year.
I agree.
6-7 with that team. Unreal. A-Rich is probably going to be a 3-time MVP at this rate because what Florida put on display on that Thursday night was embarrassing. And then an even more embarrassing effort was South Carolina's offensive line in that game against North Carolina. Spencer Rattler looked pretty good when he wasn't getting rushed by North Carolina's defensive line. It was an incredible display by North Carolina. I have to give credit to them. But they were giving South Carolina chances. Drake May had 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter, and South Carolina's offensive line just could not hold it up, and they couldn't capitalize in the red zone. Then we take you to New Orleans with South Alabama and Tulane. Tulane just said, enough of this. We're just going to show who's boss. And, of course, I fell into the trap. Tulane destroyed South Alabama. We don't even really need to talk about that. That's neither here or there at this point because the real story of the weekend was FSU and LSU.
That was crazy.
And FSU completely took LSU out of their game. The Tigers had no response to FSU in the second half. Jordan Travis was magnificent. Keon Coleman, former Spartan, was sensational. And Brian Kelly seems to struggle in these games against FSU. I don't know what it is, but he struggled against them at Notre Dame. They lost the game last year. They just have his, number. They're his kryptonite. And for whatever case you want to make for LSU in the National, Football Playoff now, it's becoming a lot more difficult. And I was expecting a lot more out of LSU. Justin was expecting a lot more out of LSU. Mm-hmm. That unfortunately didn't happen. And then, of course, the major disappointment and the biggest upset of the weekend was Duke demolishing Clemson 28-7. No chance. Clemson was 12.5-point favorites, and they got mollywopped.
We both had them in our playoff predictions.
And that's completely fried. That's fried. So, all in all, I'm 0-5 now. But we're going to get back. I'm not worried. But I want to apologize to everyone. Justin was 1-4. He really has nothing to brag about here. He can brag about Utah all day long, but the truth of the matter is he was still 1-4. And those were terrible picks, but we're on to week 2. No more recap. I'm done. We don't need to get into it anymore. If you have anything you want to say about the week, go ahead, but I'm ready for these picks because I cannot stomach what happened last week.
Nope. My shirt says everything that I need to say.
All right, on to the picks.
Well, all right. First game of this college football weekend is the Fighting Irish at Notre Dame head to NC State against the Wolfpack. I believe it is 5.5. May have changed recently.
I can get you that number, but start us off here. What do you like about this matchup here?
One thing, the NC State is known to be really good playing at home. That's one thing I've noticed over the years. They may not have a well put together team, but they have some guys that know how to grind and they got some grit. Normally the defense is decently pretty good. Notre Dame is known to be. They should be in the ACC. Let's make a statement right here. Notre Dame should be in the ACC based on all their other sports and everything that's going on with them. They should be in the ACC. Notre Dame. They've played great their first game. Obviously, it was a big thing in Ireland, but it was against Navy. That's not a lot to say. They really beat them down. This is going to be their second week game. Can their defense still keep playing well? And can Sam Hartman really guide the offense that looked incredible, honestly, against Navy? Obviously, like I said, not that much to talk about. But NC State is still a sleeper team. They always can come out of nowhere, punch you in the mouth real quick. And it's always interesting because the weather seems to be wild sometimes when NC State has like a big home game. And, a hurricane just passed on through recently in that territory. So, I don't know. Maybe they got a little juice in their systems for this. What are you thinking? I got to fix that.
Yeah, so it's actually Notre Dame minus 7.5 currently. Those are the current odds. This is an interesting game for me because NC State's coming off a win against UConn on the road. A dangerous spot, I would say, because while UConn is not a great football team, they showed improvement last year. And quite frankly, when you have a game against Notre Dame, you might be looking ahead to that one. So to stay humble and focused on the task at hand, a big road win for NC State. That's not, it's not a win over a top 10 team or a top 20 team, but you know what? It is a tough place to, find a win on the road, especially your first game of the year. Now they get to welcome Notre Dame in, and you're right, Sam Hartman and that offense looked incredible. I'm a big believer in Marcus Freeman. I think he's the right man for the job at Notre Dame. Does that trend continue? Well, it's tough for me to say it right here, right now, because NC State, I feel like, is one of those places where it's a little bit tricky to play at. I don't know what it is, but I always feel like NC State is good for a good football game. And the public is slamming the door shut on NC State. They're giving them no chance. They're pounding the table for Notre Dame. And the way I see it...
You hate the public.
I hate the public. And I think Notre Dame is one of those teams that Vegas can easily capitalize on because they have a huge population. They have a huge alumni base. And, of course, everyone's going to be betting Notre Dame. And this is probably their first big game of the season. Well, it is their first big game of the season. But everyone's going to be hammering Notre Dame. And for whatever reason, and despite my affection for Marcus Freeman as a coach, I'm just going to stay away from them here, and I'm going to ride with the Wolfpack at plus 7.5. They're at home. I think it's a safer number. I get a touchdown there, and the backdoor cover is always open at 7.5. So I'm gonna ride.
You almost hit that backdoor cover.
No, I did
Florida.
not. I did not. They had no chance. They were
You
never,
say that now, but you were talking all about it.
I was hopeful, but wishful thinking. I'm going to take the Wolfpack at plus 7.5. I think it's the smarter bet here. And you know what? Last week got me good. I'm not going to stray away from what I do. I'm going to keep fading the public in these massive, games. Notre Dame has like 80% of the bets of the spread on them. That's too much money on one team. So I have to stay away.
Unfortunately, I am all about it.
Good.
I think the defense has been playing good. Evan likes when we're not these days. He likes it when we're not on the same page. I think it's better when we're on the same page in the NFL, not college football for him.
Yeah.
I'd have to go with Notre Dame, man. I think the defense is playing pretty well. I think the offense is way better than people are giving them credit for. I know that it was against Navy, but I think he's got good receivers. He's got a great backfield with up to I believe 3 strong running backs. And Sam Hartman, I don't think he's like in the talk really, but I think he's a potential sleeper Heisman candidate depending on the season he could have. I know you're like, no, Caleb Williams. I think he is. I think that's an extreme sleeper pick. I'm not saying he's a lock in the top 5.
Well, I mean, we're going to get into it, but if there's there's a couple guys playing in the next game that are getting more attention than Sam Hartman will probably get all season long.
And I agree with that statement. I know exactly what you're saying. But I'm pounding the table for the Irish. Give me them.
All right.
All right, so on to game 2 of college football. Big talk here.
Yep.
Nebraska at Colorado, an old rivalry when they were both together in the Big 12. Now, Colorado's in the Pac-12, Nebraska's in the Big 10, but it seems next year Colorado will be heading back to the Big 12. Colorado favored minus 2.5. Deion Sanders, man.
It's interesting, right? I mean, they had the marvelous upset over TCU. That was a great game. One of the best early college football season games I've watched in a long time. Just so much energy, so much excitement. And Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, like that entire team. Dylan Edwards, got to give him a shout out too. Mm-hmm. Like that entire Buffs team looks so fun and so exciting. which makes this game all the more difficult because Nebraska in their first game looked the complete opposite of Colorado. Lifeless at times, very stagnant. I mean, they should have beat Minnesota on the road, and in Nebraska fashion, they completely choked the game. This matchup here, while I'm watching one team dominate offensively and the other team struggle offensively, I now have a spread of 2.5. And that just completely befuddles me. I'm just completely befuddled.
What do you think it'd be more like a 3.5? Maybe
No,
5?
I just, everyone's on Colorado. Everyone thinks Colorado's so sweet. They upset TCU, the national runner-up.
And they just
they're
see
only
Deion,
2.5 point favorite after Nebraska choked a game on the road. Now Nebraska has another road game with Matt Rule at the helm. I don't know. This spread is weird. It makes no sense. Everyone thinks Colorado's going to probably blow the doors off of Nebraska. If they paid any attention, they know what Nebraska did last week, and they know what Colorado did last week. I hate this pick, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm taking the Huskers here. And it makes 0 sense, but this spread makes no sense, and I am going to play the no sense game. So I'm going to take Nebraska blindly here, knowing that I'm taking a horrible team, and I'm betting against Deion, which I don't want to do, but I'm going to have to do it here
He keeps his receipts, man.
I just have to. So I'm taking the Huskers here. I really have no crazy insight here outside of this spread makes 0 sense to me. Coming off of a win like that against TCU, you'd think they'd be maybe 8.5, 9.5, 10-point favorites. It's 2.5, dude. That's just a weird spread. So I got to take the Huskers.
It's interesting to look at because you look at two brand new head coaches, right? Coming into new programs, seeing what the transfer portal offers, Colorado having the biggest, transfer portal amount of guys coming out of the transfer portal ever. The transfer portal hasn't been around too long,
Right.
but that's still a large amount. There was like 40-something, I think, that came to Colorado out of the portal. It's insane to see what Deion Sanders is doing. And Matt Rule, I've seen some practice clips in the offseason of what Matt Rule is trying to doing, and I don't know if it's going to work long term. I can tell you it's not going to work right now because, you need a little bit of time to build, but I hopefully he builds in the right direction. He's trying to create Nebraska into the Bama mentality of like, hey, if you want to come here, it doesn't matter what star you are, you're going to earn your, spot, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the best play the best. And it's always supposed to be, next man up mentality. But I don't know if that's going to work at Nebraska because you're not always bringing in top talent.
No.
Like they used to, Huskers used to be a big name.
They used to be a huge brand in college football.
And Matt Rule, he did great at Baylor. Obviously, he left for the money, and then he got booted, but he still got the money from the NFL. He got another big bag from Nebraska. I don't think it's going to end up working. I do agree, this is a disgusting number because it doesn't mean they can't bounce back. It's still hard-nosed Big Ten football, right? But home crowd, they're feeling it. They're not playing. They didn't look like they were playing dumb in that game at all. Travis Hunter is something else.
He's awesome. I loved watching him play.
And he's such a cool, humble guy.
I don't want to take Nebraska here, man.
I'm taking the Buffs.
All right.
I got to take the Buffs.
You're taking the fun team.
It's too close. It's too close. If it was like a 7.5, I might lean more Nebraska.
I'm the opposite. If it was 7.5, I'm taking the Buffs.
Really? Interesting.
I need a bigger spread to believe in Colorado to take them here. I can't do it.
It's going to be a nuts day at that stadium in Boulder. I'll tell you what.
Oh, yeah.
That crowd's going to be going insane.
I agree. But, yeah, as much as it pains me to not take Colorado here because you're right, that energy that they got, that swagger.
It's something about them, man. They're going to be – I wonder if they're going to be rocking – are they going to be rocking the all blacks or are they going to be rocking the – because they were rocking the all whites, weren't they, against TCU?
I guess we'll find out. But, yeah.
All gold.
They got cool uniforms.
They do.
I dig them.
They reinvented them, which was good.
Yeah.
But you knew that was going to happen. All right. There you go. Lock it in. On to game 3 of 5. Giving you 5 this week, 5 afterwards. Game 3. A little southern battle here.
Yeah, man.
Ole Miss heads to Tulane. Game time. Temperature's supposed to be 95 degrees.
Woo!
Man. Ole Miss favored by 7.5. They looked pretty good, but also iffy. Like, obviously they're playing Mercer week 1, but Jackson Dart is still having his trouble, with, just, I don't know, controlling the game, running the ball. We know he's got an arm, but it was still iffy. Tulane, shocked. Not shocked, but, they beat...
They did what they were supposed to do.
Exactly.
And then some. They blew out South Alabama. And this is kind of a rivalry game between me and you here. Hotty Toddy versus the Green Wave.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting here. Yeah, you're right about Jackson Dart. He is very iffy to me still. I don't have a ton of confidence in him, but this is a Lane Kiffin bunch that ended the season poorly last year, and I think they do have something to prove in this game. And I don't think they're going to take Tulane lightly. I don't think anyone should. They beat USC in the Cotton Bowl. They just beat South Alabama by 17 points or 21 points. I'm not even sure how much it was. It felt like a blowout. 7.5 though on the road? Are you kidding me? I mean, trust me. Quinshawn Judkins, a running back, is an absolute stud.
Mm-hmm.
But the best player in this game to me is Michael Pratt, the quarterback for Tulane. He showed out in game 1, and it looks like he's made a lot of improvements. And Coach Fritz, I love Tulane. I fell in love with them last year. I doubted them game 1. And I cannot doubt them a second time. And if they let me down, so be it. At least I'm doing with my side. Give me the Green Wave plus 7.5. It's all about this helmet right here. They're going to be loud. They're going to be rocking. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to brag about Tulane in this game against your Rebels. It's going to happen. Tulane is going to win. They're home. And they just don't lose at home. They're unstoppable at home. So you can take your Rebels here. I'm taking the Green Wave.
I love what I've seen out of Pratt, right?
Yeah, Michael Pratt.
I love what I've seen out of him because the big discussion was, he'll still have a running back, he'll still have a backfield, but can he really do what he needs to do with this offense without Tajay Spears? That was the big question, coming to this season, and he really showed that against South Alabama. He really showed that he's got the arm, he can guide this offense. As long as he has some running game, it doesn't have to be the most dominant, but he can still get the ball going through the air and make plays.
This is a Tulane team that was 6-2 against the spread at home last season at Yeoman Stadium.
They love that stadium, man.
It's a wild place, and they're in a beautiful part. They're in New Orleans, right? They're in just an incredible part of Louisiana, party atmosphere, Mardi Gras City, right? They know how to party, and they know how to support this team. This is really New Orleans' team, and they do a great job of showing out at Yeoman, and that's why it's actually a pretty tough place to play, and obviously it's not the same SEC environment that Ole Miss has to play in weekly, but at the same time, don't take Yeoman lightly. I think Ole Miss is in for a rude awakening here. I do. Maybe it's just the Tulane in me talking, but I don't see it with Jackson Dart. And Lane Kiffin, he's suspect as a head coach. He just is.
Undefeated in September.
They can
prime
still
time.
win. They can still win this game. But
they're looking at that
7.5. That's a big number to clear.
Tough when you're winning by 10 plus.
The Drewski.
I love I love the Green Wave. You know I'm about it. I know that's Evan gets to claim that more so, but we love Tulane here on this show. But I am a Rebel. I'm also a Vol, back and forth. And I'm excited for both seasons. Probably I'm a little more still Tennessee because of Joe Milton and that arm. But I'm still taking Ole Miss. I think it's a close game. Like I said, I said 10 plus, but I think they'd have to. This might be like a 10-point win. But give me Hotty Toddy, give me the Rebels, the Land Sharks, baby.
All right, take them. Tulane is getting heavily bet against as well. I'm continuing my Fade the Public theme. It has to work at some point. They cannot always be right.
Maybe we're just meant to go back us opposite each other.
Well, we'll see in Game 4 because I feel like we might both be feeling a certain way about
this one.
Yeah.
All right, on to Game 4. The in-state battle early in the season, Iowa at Iowa State.
Great rivalry.
Iowa's now no longer unranked after winning week 1, which is quite an interesting thing.
They
But
just
I
weren't
mean,
impressive in that win.
Yeah, they weren't. They weren't at all. You know, Cade and Eric All transferred from Michigan. They look like they're still doing well. Iowa has somewhat of an offense too, which is good for them because we know
they started out hot and then they fizzled out. And Utah State, it's not like Utah State's some menacing opponent.
Used to have Jordan Love, icon in the world. Jordan Love, the icon. And Iowa State has Mr. Used to have Mr. Irrelevant.
Brock Purdy.
Who is now the Niners QB. They had Breece Hall for a good time. Iowa State gets some good recruits. Can't ever sleep on them. And their coach was prime for a big
Matt
job.
Campbell, he probably didn't capitalize on when his stock was high, but Iowa State's not a bad place to coach football. And they're in the heart of the Big 12, right? Mm-hmm. So they're going to get recruits, and they've produced NFL talent. I mean, you think as of late, probably the most notable was Breece Hall. But Iowa State, and Brock Purdy too, but Iowa State is definitely capable of getting guys to the NFL. So it's a place to play. And Iowa, the same can be said. I mean, you have tight ends, tackles, right? Iowa's good at producing football players too. So both of these schools know how to get it done in terms of producing talent, but how about producing wins, right? Mm-hmm. And Iowa State, not the greatest season last year, a little disappointing, I'd say, in most regards. And I think the same can be said for Iowa because it really felt like Iowa had a chance to just capitalize on the West. And ultimately, you know, they didn't. It was Purdue that came out on top. But there was many opportunities for Iowa to do so last year. Now, you're right. They bring in Cade McNamara. They bring in Eric All. What does the offense look like? Well, honestly, it looked like a lot of the same as last year with a couple of brand names at quarterback and tight end. It's at Ames. It's Iowa State's underdogs in this one. I'm going to take the home underdog here. I haven't been convinced enough that Iowa is going to pull away from a team where they're going to be covering spreads. And Iowa State, while I don't really know a ton about what they have, I feel comfortable betting them as the home team in this game. And it's more so a lack of faith in Iowa, why I'm taking Iowa State, because I just don't think Iowa's going to be this team that pulls away from someone. This is not going to be a blowout. This is going to be a close game. It's going to be a very defensive battle.
Win.
I'm thinking a 3-point win, literally a field goal win.
Either side.
Either
and then
side.
You cash in.
Yes. So I'm going to take Iowa State at plus 3.5.
Yeah, it is tough looking at Iowa. You know, they have some new talent, but how promising is it? We don't know. Iowa State, I don't even know what they have going on over there. I don't know anyone or any names currently on that Iowa State team. The Cyclones are pretty cool, though. 3.5. 3.5, man. The home favorites. You're locking in the home favorites.
I'm locking them in, man.
I'm guessing the public's on Iowa.
You want to know where the public's sitting at right now?
Yeah, I am kind of intrigued where the public's at right now.
Well, this was an Iowa State team that was 4-8 last year, so that, like I said, it was bad. And that fear might still be trapped in the brains of many that are betting this game. But the public is basically 50-50 on this one. They don't really know which way to lean. And I'm kind of the same way, which is why I'm taking Iowa State.
I want to take Iowa, but I might agree with you on this one. Something about home game.
I'd rather just root for Iowa State, really, at this point.
Because Iowa might squeak it out, but exactly, the squeak out. And is it going to be that 3-point, and we're going to be bothered?
I mean, the only thing you have to fear is Iowa's defense getting like 2 defensive touchdowns.
That's a concern, yeah.
But, I mean, come on. Like, really, we're playing the defensive touchdown game? If that's what I have to get you to convince you to take Iowa, then you know you should be taking Iowa State. And just in terms of a practical standpoint, because you know Iowa's offense is not going to get it done. Brent Ferentz is the worst OC in college football. In his contract, he has to score 24 points per game or else he's fired. That's a true thing. There's a clause where that offense has to average 24 points per game or else he's gone. That's his own son. That's Kirk Ferentz's own son. And that's a clause.
Wow.
That's how bad it is there. So Iowa State, to me...
Let's hop on the Cyclones.
Let's do it.
Let's hop on the Cyclones.
Let's do it, man. I'm glad.
No one
This is a game I knew we were going to be on the same side for. Had to do maybe a slight ounce of convincing.
I was pushing Iowa. I was. It's hard because it's an ugly game, honestly. It's a rivalry, but it's still an ugly game because there's nothing great looking.
I could see literally like, I don't even know.
2017, maybe not even.
No, 13-10.
Yeah, either way.
16-13.
It's 10-10 at the end of the game, and then one of them kicks a field goal.
Literally.
Woo! We're chilling. If it's 10-10 at the end of the fourth, we're just like, all right.
5 field goals versus 4 field goals, 15-12. Can you imagine?
So funny. One, we end up seeing a safety, and we get screwed. That would happen in this game.
Yeah, a safety at the end makes it like 20-15. Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Let's go Cyclones. All right, last game of the couch.
Biggest game of the week
Slate.
by far.
Absolutely. Game day will be there. Everyone will be there. Texas at Alabama. What a game it was last year.
Electric. It was electric in Austin last year.
Yes, it was. And Alabama should have lost that game.
They should have lost, but they didn't. They squeaked out the win on the road. Now we get it in Tuscaloosa, and wow. This is a very wild matchup. I want to hear your take on it first, because I'm so on the fence. I don't even know where to go. I want to hear your take first before I try to give you mine.
You know, like last year, it was in Austin. This year, Tuscaloosa. Location is going to be huge no matter what way you're looking. And I mean, I don't know the last time Texas was in Tuscaloosa. It was probably a long time ago. I don't know the last time they because we haven't seen this series in a long time. Probably since, maybe even the
Colt McCoy when Saban won his first, right?
That was probably the last time they played. They probably didn't actually play a series at all, probably since like a Vince Young kind of era at Texas. But yeah, that was the big game. That was the biggest probably like college football game I remember watching when I was younger.
Colt McCoy versus Alabama. I don't even
Ingram.
remember who was on that Bama team, like who started at quarterback for them in that game.
Mark Ingram was on that team. I believe it was Greg McElroy at quarterback. I don't know who else was there. I just strictly remember Mark Ingram because that was his Heisman year. Then you remember Colt McCoy. You think about that. I don't know. You just think about that time, man.
It was an incredible game.
It was a good game. You look at Alabama right now. I know they got Jalen Milroe, and they were able to play good and still have a good victory their first game. But I do not trust that guy in clutch moments or when it's going to matter. Bryce Young was all about those clutch moments, making plays out of nothing, like the football IQ. That was everything last year. He concerns me greatly. On the other side of the ball, Quinn Ewers. He's looking good.
Quinn Ewers is kind of a lightning rod topic for me because I do feel like he looks good. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Like, end point. I think he looks good. But this 5-star quarterback that we got out of high school, one of the best recruits that we got out of high school, is not, to me, looking like a
generational talent like he should be.
First-round quarterback, a guy that's going to carry your franchise. I'm just not getting that feeling from him yet. A lot of game to be played, but I want to see more from him. I'm expecting more from him, like we expect more from a Drake May, from a Caleb Williams, from a J.J. McCarthy even, from a Bo Nix even. Like, we're expecting them to look the part, and I think Quinn Ewers has looked somewhat of the part, but not the, there's a little left for me to see from him. I need to see more. But you're right about his ability, too, in the same breath. Like, he is talented. He does look good. And Texas is back? Question mark? Like, are they back? That's
not
really
that's
a big question, I feel.
I think it's a smaller question mark than it would be.
You think so?
Right now.
Okay.
Right now. I mean, people always say that every year. I think there's a lot of promise this year. I think there is a lot of promise. This game can say a lot.
And maybe I'm going to hold them to an unfair standard here, but if they're really back, if they really mean business, they win this game.
Absolutely.
It's not even about covering the spread. They win this game. They go into Tuscaloosa, and they show Alabama, we're better than you. And you're no more. Saban, your time has passed. It is now Steve Sarkisian's time to take that next step, and for Texas to take that next step in an era where they're moving to the SEC, right? There's so much movement in terms of where teams are going, but you're moving to the SEC. You're going to be seeing Alabama on a yearly basis. And what better way to show the SEC fan base what you're about than winning this game? Because we can talk all about last year and how Texas should have won. The fact is, Alabama won the game. And even if you looked impressive in that one, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you didn't come out with the victory. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how you get there, if you deserve to win, if you don't win, it's getting the win. And Alabama got the win last year. Texas now has a chance to rewrite the script. And at +7, I like their chances of covering the spread. So I'm going to take Texas to cover that 7 number on the road. Although I still think Bama wins this game. I think they come up just short again. But I like Texas to cover here. I'm going to trust them. I'm going to put my faith in them. I'm horns up this week. And it's a scary feeling, but I think I'm on the right side of it here.
I know you said Alabama won last year, but let's think about 2 big factors. Alabama, penalty-wise, had the most penalties their defense has ever had in the Nick Saban era and gave up the most yards in that game. Second big factor, we know he's good right now, even great, maybe not amazing. Quinn Ewers got knocked out of that game.
He did.
And that could have been the difference maker alone.
You're right, 100%.
They could have scored another touchdown or 2.
That's kind of where I'm getting at. Like, if Texas doesn't lose Quinn Ewers, they probably win that game. But the fact is, they didn't. And you would have liked to have seen them win that game.
Absolutely. But also, he could have been there. Alabama's defense could have played great with no penalties. And, we don't know. I'm horns up with you.
Oh, baby.
I
baby.
know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing coming from you right now.
It's a little bit of both. I'm like, it's nervous energy.
Crap that we're both on it.
It's nervous energy, but I do like that we're kind of in the same mindset with this one. And I do feel like the public is probably looking at this game and saying, Alabama at home, it's Nick Saban, it's the Crimson Tide.
I think they do win, like you say, though, but that's 7.
But here's the deal, and I know Alabama had so many road games last year. I mean, they were at Austin, they were at Knoxville, they were at LSU, they were at Baton Rouge. Like they were literally on the road for every single big game. They're finally at home for these big ones, and while I still think they can win this game, I'm not convinced that Bama is back yet. I want to see it first, and if they blow out Texas, then yeah,
respect to them.
Yeah, Bama's back to being what we think they are. But last season, they struggled through a lot of these big games. And you're right. We don't know exactly the ceiling Quinn Ewers has, but if he is what he could be, he comes into this game and puts on a show and gets it done. And that's why I like Texas to cover, honestly, because I do feel like there's upside for them to win this game, and at least upside for them to keep it close. So we're horns up this week. You know what? I'm kind of like a Roll Tide guy. I like the Roll Tide a lot.
I'm not. I will never be a Roll Tide guy.
I think Texas is a smart play. And after having a horrible week, we gotta look
for something.
We had to reevaluate, and it feels like our minds are good. We're in a good place mentally. I think we have some really nice picks here.
We were on too much together last week. We were
agreeing too much. It was too.
We only had one disagreement.
Yeah.
And this week we only agreeing on 2, so that's better. I don't know.
And even in the games we agree, I feel like there was a good amount of, back and forth.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we've really had a collective effort here to zone in on what the task is, and the task is giving the people a winning record this week. We're not going to make up the 1-4 and 0-5 in 1 week, but we can do it step by step, game by game, and it starts this week, week 2. Those picks are in. You want me to run it down for us, big man?
Run it down.
All right, in our first game, Notre Dame at NC State. I have the Wolfpack at +7.5. Justin's got the Fighting Irish at -7.5. In Deion Sanders' first game at home in Colorado, I'm on Nebraska +2.5. Lord, help me with that one, please. And Colorado is Justin's pick at -2.5.
Buffs.
Ole Miss, Tulane, hotty toddy versus the Green Wave. I'm on Tulane at Yeoman Stadium +7.5. Justin is on the Rebels -7.5.
Yes, sir.
In the battle for Iowa, we are both siding with the team from Ames, Iowa, which is your Cyclones at +3.5. And then in the capper here, Texas, Bama, we are both horns up +7, taking Quinn Ewers and Sark to cover the spread against Saban.
It's going to be a good week, too.
Yeah, much better matchups this week. Week 1, kind of a dud always.
It was a disastrous weekend.
Lucky to have LSU and FSU and TCU and Colorado
Those are the only
kind
two
of
good
save the
games.
day on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. And then Monday night was really, that game with Clemson was just horrible. It was just a bloodbath. So really, 2 big games last week. Hope to give you some more this week and hopefully give you some wins because 0-5, that's only happened a handful of times.
That's true.
And we always bounce back.
We do bounce back.
So we're going to have a big week this week. Vegas, the math, it'll come around. So slow start, but we're here. We're not losing the faith yet.
No, not yet.
If we go 0-5 again, or if I go 0-5 again, we're going to have a serious conversation.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. Enjoy this beautiful Saturday of college football, week 2. It's back. Big one down tonight down south in Tuscaloosa.
Yes.
Enjoy it, live it, horns up. And we'll catch you next week. College football. Check out the NFL picks tomorrow morning, and we will see you next time. Peace.